Vermin.
Pervert.
Dangerous.
Girlish.
That's
Abnormal.
Sinister.
Disgusting.
Un-American.
Immoral.
Inferior.
Insane.
Psychopath.
Neurotic.
Sterile. Queen.
Degenerate.
A major decision from the Supreme Court.
When it comes to LGBTQ policies and legal battles, most discussions around it boil down to housing discrimination, trans healthcare, intersex surgeries, and don't say gay/censorship laws. However, one of the most important laws that were fought in the past century is sodomy laws. Now, what are sodomy laws for those who don't know? Well, sodomy laws is gay sex. No, seriously, I was the only person in my AP Gov class who had no idea what sodomy was, so imagine how funny it looked that I, an openly gay man, had no idea what sodomy meant and thought that it meant cheating on your husband. Ain't that hilarious? Man, I miss AP Gov. Hi, my AP teacher and my AP class, I miss you guys. Remember when I def dropped in class? Yeah, I know. I miss you guys. Throughout history, sodomy has always been a major topic with legality and morality, with several ranges in severity and criticism. According to Homophobia by Byron Fawn,
During the 18th and 19th centuries, sodomy became a concern for a far broader section of the public, which was by now convinced sodomites were a curious and probably dangerous species, essentially different from other men. Sodomy's threat to the immortal soul was less interest to those reformers than was a danger opposed to the social and political body. The social control of the sodomites, even their extirpation, was seen as a necessary task of the state.
sodomy was a law that was meant to criminalize any sexual contact that wasn't with the intent of procreation, typically any sex not between male and female / husband and wife, which means any sexual interactions that involved anal or oral were criminalized, and this was heavily used to target gay men. Specifically, cops would attempt to lure out gay men and arrest them for wanting gay sex. The right to gay sex and homosexuality was a key fighting point in early gay liberation movements, as in the 1970s, sodomy laws were still present in states like New York and California, which were eventually discarded in the 70s thanks to activism and movements growing. On a federal level, however, sodomy was still not legalized, and states like Texas and Florida still persecuted people, even after Florida downgraded it from felony to misdemeanor in Franklin versus State. It wasn't until 2003, Lawrence versus Texas happened. This court case designated that sodomy was a part of right to privacy, and thus gay sex is allowed. It's important to note that while this allowed for gay sex without arrests, sodomy laws are still on the books or took years to remove. This court case can be interpreted as liberation for queer people. Finally, two consenting adults can have as much sex as they want. They no longer have to worry about people snitching or bush camping them in the streets like my goat Yuta Akatsu. Now, you might disagree on both manners because we still have people calling Yuta a fraud, even though he at least jumped in to throw hands with Sukuna. Meanwhile, Hikari can't seem to finish off Uraume, and Higuruma immediately got washed on impact, but we'll get back to that later. The concept of sodomy is something heavily explored in literature and stories, as a lot of MLM want to have sex with men, including me and the guy that's like talking about this video. You'll see him later. However, there's a certain author we're going to talk about today that wrote about a wolf, a deer, and the wrath of 1,000 European men. Happy 20th anniversary, 3 cheers for two stories that showcase homosexuality as a core theme but aren't talked about a lot in the modern day are The Lies, Bisclavret, and Guigamar. Written in the 12th century by famous French lie author Marie de France, the stories of Bisclavret and Guigamar are lies that tell distinctly gay stories and have heavy themes about homosexuality and how it was perceived through the time. Bisclavret tells the story of a man who is cursed to be a werewolf and every 3 days leaves his clothes in a safe area and escapes into the woods, only to return to his wife in human form after. After his wife finds out about his secret, the wife and the knight steals the man's clothing and marries the knight, leaving the man as she no longer wishes to lie beside him anymore. And the man, now bound to his werewolf form, 1 year later, is found in the woods and given shelter by the king. After attacking the aforementioned knight at a celebration, the king investigates the couple and finds out how they sabotaged the man. The king exiles the wife and knight, returns the clothes to Bisclavret, and gives him back his land, but not before embracing him and kissing him in his private chambers after Bisclavret changes back into human form. Guigamar is a tale about a man of the same name who struggles with romance with women and has no desire to be with girls. One day, while hunting a stag, the arrow he shot rebounds back to him, with the stag cursing him to find love in order for the arrow wound in his thigh to heal. From there, he ends up on a ship and finds new land where he falls in love with a woman. To show devotion to their love, the wife is given a belt that only he can open. After reuniting, Guigamar kills a man trying to steal his wife, marry a duke, and they stay together. On the surface, both just come off as old fairy tales and completely not stories of sodomy at all. I mean, in Guigamar, he stays with and loves a woman. However, when you look deeper and through a queer lens, you can see that both Bisexual and Guigamar have homosexual themes that showcase the sides and behaviors of gay men in the Middle Ages. It's no secret that homosexuality was criminalized and viewed as taboo during such times in Europe, and the label of a sodomite was once seen as not only heretic, but also damning for anyone. Guigamar and Bisexual are lies that both show how MLM responded to such fears, for whereas Guigamar depicts a man forced into heteronormative society and giving up his non-heterosexual lifestyle, Bisexual embraces his werewolf or erotic side and not only finds support and love with the king, he is also able to enact justice on those who held prejudice against him, as symbolized by his ex and the knight no longer having nose, including their descendants. Bisexual and Guigamar can be interpreted as stories of gay men, and for all those MLMs who feared discrimination for sex with men. Bisexual shows how men's sexuality is like a wolf. While normal, it's deemed abnormal, bad, and also crazy. Guigamar shows that men's sexuality is like a stag deer, vulnerable, abhorrent, and how it brings shame onto those oppressed by homophobia and forces them into things they didn't want to. However, both lies also show that men can have a wild side, and this concept, the wolf and deer symbolizing homosexuality, is barely explored in queer literature. But there is one manga that broke through and can be seen as a queer story, one that not only featured a wolf, but a deer, a king, to go alongside him. That manga is Beastars, and the deer king and wolf are Louis and Legosi. Lougosi. Beastars is a manga published in Weekly Shonen Champion from 2016 to 2020, and a Netflix anime that released from 2019, with its final season premiering this year. The story follows the life and times of Legosi, who not only struggles to find his place in a herbivore-dominated world where carnivores are oppressed and discriminated against, he must also navigate his complicated feelings for Haru, a white rabbit. Throughout the manga, Legosi and Haru's relationship blossoms in an awkward way, not only common among teenagers, but also by their statuses as herbivores and carnivores. Legosi being a socially awkward wolf seen as a scary monster ready to kill innocent herbivores, and Haru, the school mistress that is known for sleeping with other men. Legosi, the man who's always careful and calm, knowing that having good behavior is demanded by carnivores, and Haru, who cares not if she lives or dies, but rather lives lives to her accord. Legosi, a carnivore that comes to terms with his feelings and tries to do what's right even if it goes underappreciated, and Haru, a herbivore that refuses the labels of fragile and sexual and wants to define what she means to herself. It's no wonder that characters with such depth and such unique and taboo subject matter got together and became a healthy and fun couple at the end of their stories. But we're not talking about Haru, we're talking about Louis instead. Throughout Beastars, there's two major characters that Legosi have an important relationship with from the beginning of the story to the very end. Two that are essential to his development, the aforementioned Haru and Louis. Louis and Legoshi's relationship is one that is very, very weird, awkward, sometimes toxic, and in the immortal words of this meme that I found thanks to my friend Jack Off Quilo, toxic yaoi cannibalism, murder, bloody gay sex, but madly in love. Legoshi's herbivore fetish and desire to be with the herbivore clashes but also mellows well with Louis' carnivore fetish. Legoshi and Louis are completely two different people that expand farther than the predator and prey role. Legoshi, as a carnivore, was taught to suppress his own instincts and his carnivorous nature, whereas some carnivores such as Bill and Riz willingly let loose and let their carnivorous pride hang. Legoshi always checks himself and put others' safety first. Legoshi becomes a hero to herbivores not only because of his love for Haru, but for his new gained knowledge that he himself can make an impact on people's lives. But mostly because he's a perverted wolf. He can be someone that isn't feared and beloved, despite being told by peers, the media, and other factors that his status as a carnivore brands him as a monster. Legoshi is someone that is willing to open up, albeit he is awkward and socially inverted to know what's right to say. Legoshi learns to understand and likes his identity as a gray wolf, and in turn is able to be nicer and improve his communication skills, in contrast to how awkward and weird he comes off in the beginning of the series. Louis, on the other hand, is someone who has been broken and rebuilt countless times by the cruel and divided society. Louis has a strong sense of justice, order, and believe that everything had a purpose that must be fulfilled or you're deemed as weak in his eyes. Weakness is the one thing Louis despises, but also the one thing he fears most of all. Being born in the back alley to be sold as live meat, being branded with the number 4, and also taken in by Ogama after threatening to kill himself, Louis hates being pitied as a herbivore, especially by carnivores, and even despises when carnivores don't even embrace their carnivorous traits. Louis is a natural-born leader with justice, but that justice becomes corrupted when the mayor tells him to do nothing about Haru being kidnapped by the Shishigumi. After killing the chief lion and becoming the Shishigumi leader, Louis abandons his old idea of justice and instead decides to walk the path of instincts and strength. Louis, as the Shishigumi leader, was someone who believed justice was for whoever came out on top, no matter the cost. As he goes down the path more, his ego breaks down further, and after sacrificing a leg with Legoshi, he realizes this isn't what he wants, and decides to try to return to a normal light. However, Louis is scarred by such, and tries to live his life as a stoic and confident businessman, while also understanding that not only he has to open up and show humility, he also needs to understand that others have their own ways of expressing themselves. He learned that life is more than just strength and powering through, but also to show your humility and learn to feel and embrace pain properly. These factors are what make Legoshi and Louis not only great protagonists, but make them great foils to each other. Louis' demand of showing no weakness or fragility directly stands at odds with Legoshi's reserved and introverted nature and his identity as a wolf. His actions subvert and enrage Louis because it not only shatters Louis' belief, but also stands juxtaposition to the way he directly presents himself. On the other end, Legoshi is one that always without fail looks out for Louis and wishes to protect him with his life. The mix of Legoshi's inner guilt of being a carnivore and wanting to be someone that values life and safety in the Beastars world makes him want to be near Louis more, which enrages Louis and his ego, especially as he hates the idea of being babied and protected because of his status as an herbivore. Legoshi and Louis both suffer from childhood trauma and pain, as Legoshi lives with the burden of his mom's suicide and the pain it brought, while Louis has to live with the idea that he was made to be livestock and made to be nothing but food for others, and then eventually made to be nothing but an heir to a father that doesn't care about him. Whereas Legoshi hated strength, Louis hated not having strength. They both serve as motivation for such, and also a trauma they overcome. And they do so not only with the people in their lives, such as a fatherly relation with Ibuki and a positive adult role model like Gohin, but Legoshi and Louis are able to heal with each other. Add on with how herbivores and carnivores always have heavy mistrust towards each other, how their place in society as a prodigy and now criminal completely contrast each other, and how both have been dragged through hell and back, and you not only get one of the most solid and heartwarming friendships, but also one of the more sexually charged and more erotic and very, very gay couple than never was. Disclaimer, I have to do this. I am not saying that Lougosi is the canon ship and everyone must ship it, nor am I trying to say that Haru Goshi, Louis Juno, any other ship, Jakoshi ladder, is bad. I'm just making a video on why I love Lougosi and why I think it's really awesome. It's just, we're also assuming that Legoshi and Louis are the MLM couple. We're going with that. We're not trying to change the canon as disrespect anything, okay? Please no ship wars, no fighting in the comments. Yes, I know this is a funny thing, but hey, it's Pride Month, it's a funny video, and Beastars is getting a new season, okay? Just make sure, like, yes, Lougosi wasn't endgame, but, like, at least we can all admit, Juno deserved better. There's no denying it. Beastars is a very horny manga. Whether it's Haru and Legoshi's first interactions, to Pina being seductive and bragging about the woman he slept with, to actually just put any interaction that Legoshi has with Herbivore, Beastars proudly displays its sexual tension and angst amongst the characters and holds nothing back. At least for Weekly Shonen Champion standards. Beastars as a series uses this to not only highlight the dynamic between predator and prey that is hidden by the strict societal rules in the Beastars world, but in the case of our main characters, to also explore the sexual frustrations and desires that teenagers get in their high school years and eventually in adulthood. Legoshi, being the main protagonist, is filled with several moments where he has his desires, or male mood, take over. And this can be seen with the man we're shipping with him today, Louis. Throughout the stories of Beastars, Legoshi and Louis have tender moments that border from high romantic tension to flat out they're in the same bed, albeit accidentally. The way I can compare it is like Shang Feng Tai and Shang Shu-rei from Winter Begonia, with how Shang Shu-rei is like Louis, a proud performer whose painful backstory and adopted daddy issues leads him to struggle making bonds, giving him a horrible temper, and oh my god, these two are just the same without the bathtub. Louis and Legoshi's moments in Beastars are some of the best executed moments and one of the best feats of Paru Itagaki's character writing. Both see a dark side within the other that brings out their concerns and also questions their stance and what they do in their lives. Despite the presentation and the look of it at a surface value, Legoshi and Louis show a great sense of care and admiration for each other. Both can see that their nature and beliefs are product of their heavily polarized society. Because of such behaviors and their inability to perfectly abide by each other's definitions of herbivore and carnivore, they find mutual ground and a strong relationship. Whether it's the mutual Louis wanting him and Legoshi to be Beastars together, and overall their existence changing each other for the better, Legoshi and Louis had a major impact on each other, and they can be seen as not only friends, but great male lovers. It's no surprise that one of the more popular ships in the Beastars fandom is Lougosi. The forbidden and taboo love of predator and prey, let alone that between a wolf and a deer, let alone that between two men, is not only one that excites Fujoshis, aka our strongest soldiers that unfortunately have feared nothing but pain this April, I am so sorry, but also just people who ship. As of April 2024, the Lougosi tag has a total of 1,171 works in AO3's archives. For reference, the Beastars AO3 tag has of the same time 2758 works, meaning that whenever a Beastars fan goes on AO3, they have a 43% chance of finding a fanfiction around Lougosi or with Lougosi in it. Is this accurate? I have no clue because I'm not the math guy.
Right?
He's the math guy, right?
Right?
No.
So yeah, Lougosi is pretty popular, but the question is, why? Why is it that two characters that already have canon lovers are being shipped together? What else can make it so appealing? Well, aside from the aforementioned homoeroticism, Lougosi as a ship fits into three tropes that not only define what makes the ship so powerful in its own fandom, but also why the ship is so valuable and how it plays so beautifully in the Beastars world. The three tropes are 1. Rivals to lovers, 2. Star-crossed lovers, and 3. Changed for the better. And of course, considering Beastars, there's also the huge factor of the way they eat each other, and the consumption of herbivores can correlate to love. We'll get to that in a moment. Lougosi is a much more complex and thought-out ship than it appears on the surface. It's one that appeals to not only LGBTQ people watching Beastars, it appeals to those who wish to see love appear more on the wild side. Oh, and furry. The first trope is the typical rivalry between lovers. I mean, who doesn't love a good I hate you to I love you pipeline? It's one that it's almost every good romance enjoyer loves. It's seeing two people acknowledge their flaws and understanding humility to realize that you're not perfect, nor is your partner. It's also understanding that the world isn't perfect, but rather than fight, embrace it and face it head on. this might seem like any other rivals to lovers. What makes Lougosi so different from other ships I covered, such as Gelfi or Sonadow? Well, let me remind you, this isn't something like Oz or Mobius Station Square. This is the Beastars world. This isn't just a meeting someone that matches your strength, or finding someone that has the qualities you wish they had, as their rivalry is innate, not only because of their backstories and the way they were raised, but also due to the cruel and harsh norms the Beastar society is built on. In other words, Legosi and Louis were destined to be rivals to lovers. In rereading Beastars, I paid attention not only to Lougosi and their interactions, but also the Beastars world and how that shapes such a ship. And for that, it's sad. The world is full of polarization between carnivores and herbivores, both living by strict rules that conform to the idea of what they should be, to not only their species, but what society demands of them. Whereas the food chain has carnivores on the top and herbivores on the bottom, society has flipped it on its head to upside down. Instead, herbivores are seen as dainty morals, people that are civilized, kinder, and way more beneficial to society than those good-for-nothing, ferocious, monstrous carnivores. After all, carnivores already pose a threat. Who knows when those meds they're supposed to take wear off? And who knows when those horrid beasts can snap and kill one of their own? Who knows when they'll have a huge moment and no longer a dainty girl? I see you eating that shrimp. And indeed, it happened. It happened again. It happens. And it just keeps happening. The Beastars world is an unforgiving one that refuses to let rationality or logic take center stage in discourse surrounding the identity of one and what they make of their life. It's rare when carnivores and herbivores see eye to eye and show genuine sympathy towards each other. It seemed like the status quo was to never accept each other and only tolerate each other's existence. In the context of Louis and Legosi, this explains their behavior. Louis as an herbivore is threatened by Legosi, a carnivore, and vice versa. The society's expectations and discriminatory belief make Louis believe that he must fight against Legosi, not only to come out on top of an herbivore, but also to ensure that carnivores, and to an extent herbivores, know their strict place in society and do not dare cross the line set for them. After all, Louis sees himself as justice and strength, and what good would he be if he simply allowed a big bad wolf like Legosi to get the one-up on him intellectually? Legosi, on the other hand, is not someone who wishes to partake in society's expectations as a carnivore. Herbivore kink aside, Legosi's sense of justice is that anyone can be a good person and that anyone should have the right to live regardless of their species. Legosi also believes that animals shouldn't be destined as strong or weak on the basis of species, but by themselves. Legosi challenges Louis' strict beliefs. Louis and Legosi are ideologically opposed, so as the series progresses and we see those biases and behaviors crack, we not only appreciate how well they grow, but how close their bond is that they can easily break down for someone that only came into their lives so suddenly. This can easily be said for Legosi. After all, Legosi is the star of the star of the star. If he's not unlearning his herbivore biases and how to be a good lover with Haru, he's learning to be more open with Jack, understanding how to break out of fate with Goheen, or horsing around with Yahya. We can vent out his frustrations with his failed love life with his ex's grandson. But for Louis, he's different. We're not with him all the time, but we do have his backstory, and after careful consideration and looking at that one tweet Mugi sent me in a Discord that just says it, I have concluded that Louis is indeed a gay Republican. Now hear me out. Gay Republicans, for anyone both outside and inside the United States, seems like a paradox, and despite what they tell you, yes, yeah, they're paradoxes. Gay Republicans' ideas is that they wish to vote for Republican policies, but completely disavow the idea that they're gay. The only problem is, the Republican and conservative values contradict homosexuality. Several Republican platforms had made it clear that homosexuality is an abomination, and if not outlawing sodomy or homosexuality is a goal, they have no intentions of protecting or advancing the rights of LGBTQ people. If it is, they either are A, drop the T or any undesirables to ensure a divide and make sure that the proper ones come out on top, or B, they assimilate and abandon their queerness in order to appear as straight as possible and have LGBTQ people assimilated into what straight people demand of us. Most prominent gay Republicans typically follow the standard formula that follows. 1. they are usually cis gay men or lesbians, meaning they have no concern regarding the mistreatment of trans and intersex rights, and also downplay the discrimination against asexual and bisexual people, along with also denying and delegitimizing other queer people's experiences in the broad public view to not only protect themselves, but also enforce a strict rule of what being gay is. However, the lesbian aspect is easily dropped when 2. Majority are men. It's not a lie to say that lesbians are indeed also women, and as such, they face discrimination not only for their sexuality, but also because of their gender/sex as a woman through wage gaps, downplay of SA, and domestic abuse, and recently, reproductive health care. Thus, men, with the patriarchy benefits, can simply ignore these factors and gain the support brought to them by the patriarchy. And this rings true for gay men, as much signs of misogyny or lessons on how to behave around an oppressed group like women goes over their head and falls on deaf ears due to the attraction, not realizing they still play a part in such. Also, look at this video about women's rights and LGBTQ. It's pretty good. Naoko Kodama is pretty good. 3. They are able-bodied. This might be debatable compared to the past 2 points, but if you look at Republican-controlled houses and their stance on disability rights, i.e. 2017, where they partially appealed the Bush-era ADA rights, it's obvious that disabled citizens, especially disabled LGBTQ people, won't get their money's worth by going full Republican. And finally, are white. If we're going to talk about the intersection of race and queerness, it'd be criminal not to bring up black gay writer James Baldwin, as not only has he witnessed such firsthand during the 20th century, but also because I believe Baldwin has put the dynamic between white and black queerness in the best way possible. In the last interview, Baldwin extensively discusses the intersections of race and sexuality and how that has affected him in his lifetime as he experienced the rise of the civil rights movements and gay liberation back to back. On the subject of black gay people and white gay people, he states,
A black gay person who is a sexual conundrum to society is already, long before the question of sexuality, menaced and marked because he/she is black. The sexual question comes after the question of color. It's simply one more aspect in which all black people live. I think white gay people feel cheated because they were born, in principle, to a society in which they were supposed to be safe. The anomaly of their sexuality puts them in danger unexpectedly. Their reaction seems to me in direct proportion to the sense of feeling cheated of the advantages which occur to white people in a white society.
When you translate these points into the Beastars world, with the exception of point 3 after the murder solution arc, Louis fits into the bill of such, but this time replaced white with herbivore. Louis is a privileged herbivore male that not only is free to express himself more because of his status as a man, but also because he is an herbivore. Add on to his good education, his great looks, and the fact that he's the adopted son of one of the most powerful companies in the Beastars world. Louis is indeed the ideal hero in society. Louis got it way easier than Legosi. Thus, his bigoted stance grows from his privilege in the Beastars world. Of course, throughout the series, Louis loses his stance and grows past his prejudice. He reflects on his time in the black market and realizes that his trauma is more than his own weakness. He learns that he might not be fully in control of justice, but he can at least try to be like Legosi and do as much as he can for justice. And finally, he learns that he too has a carnivore fetish. Now, a carnivore and herbivore fetish for both? That's perfect, why not ship them? Well, Lougosi is perfect as rivals to lovers. They're able to demonstrate that they can be at odds and still grow and benefit from each other. Lougosi should be as perfect as Haru, right? Yeah? Well, like I said, Beastars is kind of a bitter and sad world that thrives off of differences. A society like that to allow Legosi to marry the herbivore he dreams of, let alone Louis a man? No way. And that's when we get to the next trope that Lougosi gets itself into, star-crossed lovers. Star-crossed lovers are the trope that two people, two brought together by fate and by their mutual love and bond, are doomed to never be together. We give this one a doom. Both forever separated and divided. From the classic tale of Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore art thou to flow, yo, to of course Gelfie, star-crossed lovers is a beautiful trope as it not only shows the beauty that love can bring, but also the pain and agony of tragedy. You know, I need more tragic LGBTQ manga and novels. The End of the World with You, Claudine, and Living to Suffer is not enough for me. I need more. With a world as very interesting yet bittersweet as Beastars, there's no denying that characters, unfortunately, aren't getting the jolly happy ending they got. With Oguma dying, the Shishigumi being imprisoned and impelled down on Muken 8th level, and Juno. That leaves me with Lougosi. Where does Lougosi fit in this? Well, Lugosi's fate is to never be together, and thus only see each other from another side. This one is continued from rivals to lovers in the analysis, as like we said, herbivore and carnivore discrimination is rampant. However, there's also the fact that Legosi himself is a registered meat offender. In the world of Beastars, carnivores eating meat is a crime, and one that is shunned heavily. In the Murder Solution arc, after being exhausted and on the verge of death from Riz, Legosi does the unthinkable. He eats Louie's leg. We'll get back to this later in the third and final trope, but because Legosi has done the act of devouring and eating a herbivore, he is now branded as a registered meat offender, meaning he can no longer attend integrated universities, be declined better jobs easily, and also no longer be allowed to marry herbivores. This puts him at odds because now he is doomed to never marry Haru and can never fulfill the tradition of marriage in society with the person he loves very much. In other words, he didn't get a boom, he got a doom. In the context of Lougosi, he also is supposed to not touch herbivores, be intimate, or even get close with Louie. This means that now Legosi is isolated more than ever from Louie. Granted, he breaks this in later chapters, so it doesn't really matter anymore. The meat offender aspect comes as a shackle to Legosi. On Louie's end, well, Louie's ending is a bit controversial. Louie decides to instead take up the mantle and lead Horn's conglomerate. And it's pretty debatable whether or not it's a good ending or not. Not for Juno, because oh my god, Legosi now has time for Haru and dedicate themselves to each other. In other words, they unfortunately were never meant to be anything closer than acquaintances, despite the teases, with the only connection now being that whenever Legosi is hurt, Louie's leg aches, showing that although they are fated to never be together, they are bound by the pain they shared together. It's heartbreaking that such has to be separated and not fall in love. However, in shipping and also in the story of Beastars, it's a beautiful end, especially for a gay couple in the Beastars world, where many love lives are either arranged or seen as whatever is best for the species, or ones that end in tragedy and brutality. Don't worry, Beast Complex came in clutch! Of course, the end goal of Beastars was always going to be Legosi and Haru, no doubt. There were some times where it did feel like Lougosi was stronger through a proper queer perspective. It was a tragic one, where both know that they simply are better off diverged. Their goals are different, yet their mutual feelings are ones that are strong. This is where we get to the third and final trope of why Lougosi is an amazing ship. Each has learned something from each other for the better. A trope that is heavily underappreciated when it comes to romance and ship regarding fictional characters is when the two are able to change and develop themselves because of the other's presence. More importantly, when they changed for the better. I've talked about this with Gelfie in my Wizard of Oz video that I collabed with the awesome Sally Pride drag, so check her out right now, go check that video out, and also check her channel out, please, for good shows that Glinda and Elphaba learned from each other more of reality and the flaws of Oz, and that change is something that must be worked to by different means. However, we're talking about Lougosi. What did Legosi and Louie learn from each other? I could say on the surface not to be racist towards each other, but Beastars is a much deeper story. Legosi and Louie learn from each other of their own sense of justice and morality. Now, I could talk about Kamen Rider Ryuki and how Beastars has the same sense of how every sense of justice is different and is meant to conflict with Shinji. And I already know, Asakura is literally just Melon, because not only do they have the similar spotted patterns, both psychopathic, and Melon is just Asakura's persona.
Megaten's got a lot of crazy heartless people, and while this character isn't from a niche game, I feel like he's barely talked about at all. Shuji Yakutsuki from Persona 3. What's his deal? This man tricked a bunch of teenagers into helping him in his ultimate conquest to extinguish all life on Earth. Why does he want this so badly? Well, it's never really explored much. He sees the world as broken, and the only way to fix it is to kill everything currently living. That's it. That's all we know. If the world is so bad, maybe taking part in doing inhumane experiments on 100 children that killed all but 4 of them means that you're kind of part of the problem. Seriously, this guy is irredeemable. The amount of Olympic-level mental gymnastics this man had to do to justify wanting to end all life is insane. He's terrible. That's all I gotta say. Back to Beastars.
Legosi and Louie oppose each other throughout most of the series because their sense of justice and how it's warped specifically around their upbringing, status in society, as well as the hormones rushing through their bodies. Legosi is a firm believer that eating meat and showing self-respect as someone who's a carnivore is morally incorrect. He also believes that herbivores are ones that must be protected and saved, and carnivores should be the dominant ones protecting all the herbivores. Louie, on the other hand, shows a sense of chauvinism towards his herbivore brothers, and not only thinks they should lead, but carnivores should always be second-class citizens and defined by being a carnivore. He despises when carnivores aren't being honest about their nature and pressures them to do such, even herbivores too, and confirms his bias about how animals and species act in the Beastars world. Legoshi and Louis are bigoted in their justices. Louis and Legoshi's justice on paper sounds bad, but in the real world and through a queer perspective, it falls heavily on identity politics and how it constrains people from fully fleshing themselves out. Both show that their sense of identity and role is a strict one that unintentionally is as conservative as those who outwardly expresses those prejudices. However, to say Legoshi and Louis are as morally wrong as the latter is completely wrong, as this form of thinking is a symptom of a society that makes people value identity and factors such as race, gender, and sexuality in a scale against others. The book Bad Guys, A Homosexual History analyzes such belief, as they not only take time to highlight and discuss figures in LGBTQ history, specifically gay men, but also express how identity politics completely blind us into behaving and fitting into the mold of society as an oppressed group. It makes the reader challenge such bind and makes people realize that not only should we acknowledge and show respect for our identity as an oppressed group, but to be careful not to fall into the beliefs of us versus them. Lemmy and Miller state this in their book on page 6 when they state how
our race, gender, sexual orientation, or nationality can seem like such an important intrinsic part of ourselves that we assume they must have been important for people living in the past as well. But identities are, as Stryker has said, where the rubber of large social and cultural systems hits the road of lived experience, they are constantly changing and being changed by the shifting structural realities of life, by systems of production and exchange, by ways that we relate to one another.
Both Legoshi and Louis are both basing their experiences of such on the mainstream and what is said. In the book Queer Then and Now, Professor Dean Spade warns LGBTQ people about the mainstream and how such demands that minority groups put a front to conditionally accepted when he says,
mainstreaming also brings recuperative reform proposals that recuperate systems and institutions that are under attack that make it seem like contradictions have been resolved and put a legitimizing face on harmful systems. After those reforms are won, you still have the same harm and violence targeting the same people.
In the Beastars world, carnivores that become mainstream are practically neutered and separate themselves from their identities. For example, the mayor, who ends up pretty much buying so much expensive surgery that he now looks nothing like the average lion, thus putting a facade on to please the herbivores. Another example being Yahya the Beastar. He is mainstream herbivore that is nothing but justice and a hero, thus ensuring that all herbivores can see themselves as good because of Yahya, and it's crazy when it's challenged by Melon, aka Legoshi and Louis fell into this, and this is where the change for the better trope kicks in. Legoshi and Louis, even after some time apart, really can't get their minds off of each other. They start to unlearn their bigotry/biases and understand that their justice can be expanded and allow people of other identities to blossom. Legoshi is the big one of this, as he helps overcome his mentality and control his kinks around herbivores, learning to separate his carnivorous desires while also understanding the troubles that come with teenage sexuality, be it the training with Gohin or confronting Yahya, whose behaviors and mannerisms directly challenges Legoshi's set of beliefs regarding carnivores. Louis changes his bias towards carnivores and also opens up, realizing that it's okay to show weakness, and that while strength can be a positive virtue, too much of it makes you lose your sense of reality and deludes yourself. This is seen when Louis becomes the head of the Shishigumi, making his name as the boss of the most ruthless gang in the back alley market. Thus, Louis becomes himself a mainstream figure throughout the black market. However, throughout this, he can't stop thinking about Legoshi, specifically when the battle happens against him and Riz. It was there when he realizes his mistakes and learned that his bigotry and power trip isn't what he wants. He doesn't want this power or ruling over the Shishigumi, and realizes this because of his time with Legoshi, and is shown in the car when he proudly states, "I like carnivores." This leads to the part where the trope changed for the better is truly captured in their relationship, the leg eating scene. When Legoshi eats Louis' leg, it's fully encapsulating their arc and shows how their presence in each other's lives changed for the better, like a handprint on a heart. Louis offering himself to be eaten for the sake of Legoshi is showing that Legoshi has taught him to show humility. It's not always too good to be the king of the hill, like the math guy, right? And that doing so compensates with the fact that you are who you are. Legoshi eating Louis' right leg and breaking his training with Gohin is showing that Louis has taught him to see beyond black and white, understanding that not all animals in the Beastars universe behave the same, nor do they have to. Not to mention, some laws are not necessarily immoral all the time, and that sometimes we have to break the rules to exact justice of what we want. I love this scene so much because it shows how amazing Itagaki is at writing conflicts, something I feel got a little rusty during the last chapters. It shows that Itagaki can bring them together and finally understand that they are more than meets the eye and that there's value in their relationship. A second moment that captures this is chapter 158, but I'm not going to cover it. Instead, I'm going to bring out the king of Beastars himself, Kamui Miracle, to cover this chapter. Take it away.
Chapter 158 of Beastars is still, to this day, in my top 3 chapters in the manga. And it's also what I'd call the last good chapter of Beastars. But that's a topic I don't need to get into right now. This chapter is about Legosi and Louis acknowledging the chaotic state of the world and finding a new resolve to push forward despite everything that has happened to them in the past. In fact, this chapter is where they truly title drop the name of the series and define what that means to our protagonists. The climax of the school play arc and the murder solution arc end in Louis and Legosi putting aside their differences and coming together to overcome what stands against them. But after each arc is over, they drift a little apart from each other again, and they continue trying to find their own paths by themselves. This chapter finally solidifies their permanent acknowledgement that they are better when they work together, and that to be a Beastar, the head of all of society, they must acknowledge that unification and making up for what the other lacks is the true way to push on against adversity. Through this realization, they are both finally able to truly change for the better. Something that Elphaba and Glinda unfortunately realized about each other after it was too late. Although, I do want to get out there that I personally don't interpret the hunger and cannibalism aspects of Beastars to be a representation of sexuality. But even so, the Legosi eating Louis' leg scene still stands as a strong representation of how when these two accept what they lack and work together to overcome that, they really truly can accomplish their goals. Chapter 158 is them actually acknowledging this fact, and that's why I love this chapter so much. It puts on full display just how much these characters have grown and changed for the better.
I have listed three whole tropes, 3 reasons why Lougosi is such an amazing and great gay ship. But is it canon? No, it's not. End of the video. No. I want to continue. Why? Well, let's recall back to the beginning of the video, specifically the parts about sodomy and how homosexuality is coded into literature to show the pains and themes of homosexuality. Beastars is no different if you read it through such lens. One of the main conflicts surrounding the Beastars world, especially within Legosi, is the line between love and eating herbivores. Legosi, as a socially awkward teen, has his world turned upside down from these feelings. On the surface, it just seems like animal stuff, but the truth is this can be directly compared to the trope, cannibalism as a metaphor for love. This trope is not necessarily a popular trope in mainstream fiction, but the more you read it, it makes sense. When you read Beastars through these lens and mindset, eating meat and devouring can be seen as love, romance, and sex. It is the forbidden desire to cross outside of your species and find love that isn't good for the Beastars world, be it Gosha and Legosi's grandma, Legosi and Haru, and for this video specifically, Legosi and Louis. Reading Beastars with the lens of Lougosi can be seen as cannibalism being a metaphor for sexual tension and homoerotic sex, or sodomy. Simple, easy answer. Louis' desire for Legosi to eat him and his carnivore kink can be seen as metaphor for wanting to have sex with Legosi and understanding that interspecies relationships, specifically one between 2 men, is heavily shunned and seen as immoral, and Legosi is a bisexual disaster who wants herbivores. Louis is the only gay. He literally threw up trying to have sex with a girl. Complex explanation? Not at all like Beast Complex, I find it quite simple. According to Amy Hennefold in the paper, Eating Your Lover's Otherness, cannibalism can be a means of exploring romantic aspects in a story while also adding a more taboo shock element to it. She states that, from reading medieval text,
I would like to suggest that medieval readers and writers might have repeatedly returned to this motif, not because of how it expresses taboo desires in order to prescribe them, but because it articulates, through love, the possibility of an egalitarian relationship between self and other. From sexual communion to alimentary ingestion, might cannibalism, in the context of erotic love, teach us something about how to relate to the other as no different from the self?
You can relate this to sodomy in a way that homosexuality and gay love is that of taboo nature, one that shouldn't even be written about. When you call this back to the Lougosi, it matches. The love of two men, one herbivore and one carnivore, and expected to eat and devour each other. It's such a terrifying yet beautiful story. It suggests that such practices are horribly taboo, yet so desirable. Of course, Hennevold also mentions the idea that it's usually under the female gaze for cannibalism, so here it can be referencing fujoshis. From here, we can also examine the way gender, sex, and roles in society also play a huge factor in the way Lougosi is and why it can be an amazing ship. Gender roles and toxic masculinity in Beastars is present, especially with Louis and Legosi. Both characters show some signs of toxic masculinity, whether it's Louis underestimating and berates Juno for not only being a wolf, but for being a woman, and Legosi infantilizing women and seeing himself as a guardian of what's right for small herbivore girls, especially Haru. This falls back to the obsession between homosexuality and misogyny, and how one and the other play hand in hand by saying,
"The American hatred of the male homosexual," Baldwin continued, "and our present debasement of and our obsession with him corresponds to the debasement of the relations between the sexes." Baldwin's point that the ideal of masculinity resides on sexual domination over and social discrimination against women explains why homosexual men are despised. For in the dark fantasies of their homophobic imagination, homosexuals are believed to enact a hideous parody of American womanhood. Their presumed femininity challenges domestic femininity as well as staunch masculinity and betrays both.
Hey look, it's Baldwin again. When listening to my video, it's important to remember that when talking about Lougosi, we can also acknowledge their relationship with Haru and Juno and how they react regarding their gender as a male and female and a heterosexual relationship respectively. Plus, like I said, however, at times, they also break the gender roles together and show more behaviors associated with femininity. Legosi and Louis as men show that they are slowly able to affirm their identity as who they are as a species and express themselves outside of the gender binary. This can be related to Xavier Main's The Intersexes. Not intersex as in intersex people, but if you want a really good video, check out my intersex video. It's good, I like it. What this tells us is that when reading Lougosi as a ship and Legosi and Louis as MSM, is that they are able to balance their identities as animals, but also as male in the patriarchy. Then we also look at it through sexuality and repression. After all, I started off this segment by talking about how cannibalism is a metaphor for love/sex. This can be seen in Beastars' recurrent theme of power and one coming out on top. Whether it's the drama club always having tension and coming out on top, such as Bill challenging Legosi, or Pina's narcissistic behavior enraging the carnivores, to also real-world issues like the black market and the politics of animal species and their activity in the world. Sexuality in the Beastars world relies on power, and when it comes to power and sexuality, no one explains it better than Michael Foucault and his book, The History of Sexuality. Foucault talks about the correlation between power and sexuality when he states,
"Power over sex is exercised in the same way at all levels, from top to bottom, in its overall decisions and its capillary interventions alike, whatever the devices or institutions on which it relieves. It acts in a uniform and comprehensive manner. It operates according to the simple and endlessly reproduced mechanisms of law, taboo, and censorship."
What we can get from this part is that sexuality in Beastars gives you the power to either embrace your wild side or power to control it. It talks about how the repression of cannibalism is not because of the Beastar world rules, but by willpower. A big misconception with Foucault is that his whole book is just that sexuality is repressed, but now it's not. But the truth is that sexuality wasn't repressed at all, but rather the advancement and discourse surrounding sexuality clashes with common ideas of morality and why such oppression and bad faith arguments happen. Foucault acknowledges this by saying,
"The learned discourse on sex that was pronounced in the 19th century was imbued with age-old delusions, but also with systemic blindnesses, a refusal to see and to understand, but further, and this is the crucial point, a refusal concerning the very thing that was brought to light and whose formulation was urgently solicited. For there can be no misunderstanding that it is not based on a fundamental relation to truth. Evading this truth, barring access to it, masking it. These were so many local tactics which, as if by superimposition and through a last-minute detour, gave a paradoxical form to a fundamental petition to know."
Foucault follows up later in the book by saying,
another question, distinct from the first one. This materiality that is referred to, it is not then that of sex, and it is not paradoxical to venture a history of sexuality at the level of bodies, without there being the least question of sex? After all, is the power that is exercised through sexuality not directed specifically at the element of reality, which is sex in general? Is sex really the anchorage point that supports the manifestations of sexuality, or is it not rather a complex idea that was formed inside the deployment of sexuality? In any case, one could show how this idea of sex took form in the different strategies of power and the definitely role it played therein.
With Foucault in mind, it can come off as Louis and Legosi have sexual tension. They want to, as MSM, have sexual relations. They know there's places that accept that behavior, but because of morality panic, the beliefs imbued onto them, it's impossible to find such. It's impossible to properly eat another without the fears of morality and legality down their throats. Similar to what MSM did in America prior to Lawrence vs. Texas. Heck, the idea of eating others in the Beastars world, implying forbidden love, can apply for almost anyone, including Haru, like in The Love Hotel. It's such a great concept, and reading back on it, I wish more romance manga / danmei can do this. I can talk about this more with all of Beastars, but we already have a video on that on YouTube. Bandit Keith, Boring Keith,
in America,
already has a video all about how Beastars is very, very gay, and it's one of the sources I used for this video because it's so awesome, and it's my second biggest inspiration for making the Lougosi video. While I'm strictly limiting myself to just Legosi and Louis being, loving gay to each other, he does the whole Beastars cinematic universe, and you should really check his video out. What do you mean by my second interest? Well, you'll get to that later. We're gonna get to that later, but please check out Boring Keith's channel. He's so cool.
In America.
This question also explains why the black market exists in the world of Beastars. In Homophobia by Byron Phone, they even reference this with
homosexuals find themselves in dark alleys and dead-end streets, seeking expression for their instinctual desires in socially unacceptable ways.
And I feel like the back alley market and this shows the direct comparison to sexuality and carnivorous desires, thus alluding more to the cannibalism as a metaphor for love / sex, and even further explaining why Lugosi's dynamic as a fandom ship is such a cool and unique one that sticks out from the typical fandom ship. After all I said, I firmly believe that I've covered as much ground as I can and then some. Like, I'm pretty sure I just repeated and pulled an Amberlynn Reed and gouged a bit too much. Yeah, I switched from Nikocado. So, what now for the video? Well, let's go back to the two stories that we talked about, Bisclavret and Guigamora. I think now, after knowing their stories, it's obvious to see the comparison, especially after the story, because, wolf and deer. Legosi fits into the Bisclavret story as he, a wolf, is one ostracized for who he is, and he struggles to find refuge until he meets a king. He not only helps him to defeat those that have opposed him, but also embraces him and loves him. Bisclavret is just a gay version of Legosi. The same can be said with Guigamar, but not in the way it seems. The man being cursed by a deer and forced to end up in a relationship with a woman and then take responsibility for her and fight for her, but not out of love, but of humility. Like Guigamar, Louis follows the necessities to finish his story, as it's not one of love, but of duty. Guigamar is Louis, and the deer is the physical embodiment of his life, his fears, his duties. He attacked such, and because of it, it cursed them. In a world where intimacy and romance between members of the same sex is considered degeneracy and heresy towards system of rules, people sometimes catch themselves saying, what exactly is law? What needs to be followed? Why is it we are born to follow instead of to be? Are we really bound to forever follow the wound in our thigh or the clothes we're forced to wear? Or are we perhaps meant to Lawrence or Texas? Is Lougosi the canon endgame, or do I want it to be? Nah, I'm good. But you know what Lougosi is? Lougosi is something like a JJK opening. Lougosi is my specials. Lougosi represents understanding that the law is unjust and that sometimes you're simply not meant to follow them, no matter how well you blend in. They represent that no one is held by who they were born as, and it's what you make with your trials and tribulations that make your existence one that has value, like anyone else's. They represent the fact that this world sucks, but instead of trying to be a superhero or abandon your values, keep going forward. Eventually, you not only will find people with different views, but the people you love and love you back will change for the better and understand more about you. Learn that maybe sometimes it's better to break the law. It's better to disobey and stop worrying about how to look good in a society that prefer you dead. If there's one thing that Lougosi as a ship taught me, is that you'll find someone that will change your life, make you break out of your mold, and unleash the wild side.
The king ran to embrace him. More than 100 times he embraced and kissed him. As soon as he was able, he returned all his lands to him. My, what a beautiful story. Marie de France was surely ahead of her time to talk about such in her lay. Hey, Ibuki? If you're hearing this, I want to let you know that me and Legosi are doing well. Even though sodomy laws still exist, nothing can stop us or our desires. At least that's what you always taught me.
Louis-senpai, did you hear the news? The court struck down sodomy laws in the US. Bowers v. Hardwick was overturned, and same-sex relations and activity is no longer illegal in the US.
Legosi, although you might not see it, this was hard work that came from the both of us. And I'm proud of you, you stupid, stupid wolf. 3 cheers to humility and to letting our own feelings blossom over wanting to fit in with the rest of society.
I love you so much, Louis-senpai.
Guess I love you too.
Look at that gay-ass deer.
Hello, Louis. It's been quite a while.
What are you talking about?
We were supposed to be the stars of this Pride Month video. After all, who can say no to, the strongest living beings alive? Come on.
You're probably referring to me. Anyway, we were scheduled to be on this video, not you. I better hear a good excuse on why you're hijacking this vid.
I was so ready to hear the video on how Sonadow art is the 21st century equivalent of Andy Warhol's postmodernism work.
These furries probably don't even know what a Warhol is.
Aren't you two filming a movie and a video game at the same time?
Louis, come here. I think it's a bit taboo if I get seen fighting hedgehogs.
We can hear you.
Don't be silly, Legosi. These are literally superpowered hedgehogs that have fought gods and stuff.
Also, we fought gods and stuff. We're not dead like Ibuki. Oh, nah.
No, that'd be Maria.
Oh, nah.
In my pride as an herbivore, I shall take you down.
Hey, John Deere. I know I'm not a biologist or something, but I'm pretty sure hedgehogs are also herbivores.
Sonic, your favorite food is chili dogs. I know you're subpar compared to other hedgehogs, you swimless rat, but at least be consistent.
You couldn't even be consistent in your girls.
You're not even good enough to be an MLM rep.
I'm bisexual.
If anything, you're just fodder. The fact that you're the B-star of the video. How pathetic.
Come on, there's gotta be something in here.
Hi, my name is Snapple. My background consists of watermelon and lemonade. The more you open this door and the more you hold me, my temperature goes down and I'm not drinkable anymore. Close the goddamn door!
You missed.
With this treasure, I summon my Glock.
With this treasure, I summon my Glock!
You're summoning your what?
My Gat!
I gotta.
You mammals impress me. It seems we're evenly matched. I must apologize for underestimating you, but I refuse to subside this victory.
Likewise. However, let me ask you, do you engage in homosexuality because you are attracted to men? Or are you attracted to men because you engage in homosexuality?
But we are the exception, because throughout Sherrington and Mobius, we alone are the gayest ones.
Hey, Foucault, I don't mean to interrupt the tragedy, but shouldn't we wrap up this little brawl?
Louis, I think we should try that new curse technique Q taught us.
Not yet, you dumb dog. Victory's a road that mustn't be driven high, or else it'll sting you in a hardy manner.
Still, these are the toughest rivals we've faced. We must be vigilant on any other technique they can pull.
Looks like they lost a leg in their edge, huh, Shads? How about I try that new fast curse technique you taught me? One crack at it and these gays are toast.
If it's the one I'm thinking about, hold off on it. These guys are putting up a decent fight. The last thing I need is for you to jump the gun and ruin our momentum.
Aw, come on, Shads. I'm sure I can nail it well. Plus, what else can they pull that we don't know?
Well, if I can't use that, maybe this will. Summon Moth Shikigami!
Lightspeed attack!
Gotcha. Legosi, get ready for it.
Oh, okay, Louis-senpai.
Sonic, now!
You read my mind, Shads. Domain expansion! Sheridan Square gay power. I think it worked. Hey, Shads, don't you think this was a dub?
Wouldn't say that it's a dub, but a fumble. Would have been that it didn't happen at all. Still, we're in a new location, so now we got another battle to face alongside these two.
Louis-senpai, are you okay? It seems we're in a city?
It's not the black market for sure. It's too colorful for it. Nevertheless, it appears our guests didn't miss their flight. And I don't plan on stopping this fight.
Okay, guys. Come at me, bro.
Have you seen Hamilton?
Have you seen Amberlin Reed? Chaos Swiss Rolls!
They gave me 2 chili dogs, although I asked for a coffee. And I have no silverware. Hold on. They gave me the wrong chili dog. Oh no! I got a Mediterranean chili dog that has like hummus and pesto. Oh, but this looks like beans with chili. Jeez. I'm like really, really upset right now.
What the hell does this have to do with anything?
Legosi, it's time we end this and solidify ourselves as Beastars.
Roger, Louis-senpai.
Holy crap.
Yaoi nullification technique! Jack's ladder! And that's not all. Imaginary technique. Ladder, drop him like Jeff Hardy!
It was an impressive fight. To be honest, I'll never forget nor hold any grudge for such an exhilarating match.
I won't lie. That made my Pride Month.
Oh, my chaos control. I haven't used this technique since the Heian era. My adventure era.
Are you?
Legosi, we fumbled!
What's that one song again? Another me is what there will never be.
Another rehab center is where you freaks should go.
Louis-senpai? I think you hit a nerve with that comment. Speaking of comments, I remembered something. Remember in Gaigamar how the whole theme was about humility? How Gaigamar becomes a hero and a lover, not out of righteousness, but because humility is a given. Maybe we shouldn't fight. Yeah, we had hiccups with the videos and stuff, but at the end of the day, we're not doing it out of wanting to be the gay icons, but because, well, we're us.
Honestly, this wolf guy is right. Maybe we did jump the gun. Did we, Shad?
I can admit when one is wrong. But still, I wish we knew about it prior.
But if we knew about this prior, we wouldn't have done this. We wouldn't be living our truths. Our actions shouldn't be taken based on our consequences, but rather what we feel is right. The reason gay intimacy exists in its form today isn't because we feared the cops or the law, but rather because we knew that the love for what we do and the desire to be ourselves overpowered any oppressive force that could stop us.
If anything, I'm glad this happened. It not only introduced us to you guys, but we were able to truly be the Beastars in the LGBTQ community that we strive to be.
Guess that's the fun part about being gay. You get to live and learn. Shut up.
You guys want to go in Stonewall?
We're not drinking age.
Oh.
Allow me to pick a spot.
Born November 11th, 1965, Tamotsu Shinohara is a designer that every tokusatsu fan should know. Tamotsu Shinohara is responsible for the Kaijin in Juken Sentai Geki Ranger, Samurai Sentai Shinkenja, Resha Sentai Tokyuja. We'll be talking about that very soon, keep an eyes out. The Fungires in Kamen Rider Kiva, the Orphanox in Kamen Rider Phase, the Mirror Monsters in Kamen Rider Ryuki, some in Metal Heroes, and my personal favorite, the Another Riders. However, one thing that isn't known by majority of the people is that Tamotsu Shinohara also worked on Shin Megami Tensei 4. Most notably, he designed the ever-infamous Agi-blocking Minotaur. Now, how does this relate to the video? Well, at all. Simple. This video is dedicated to a friend group that I've had since college, including one person that I collabed with today. Ever since I started this channel, there's been this one friend group that's been with me since the very beginning. In fact, these people were like the test runners of my videos when I first started making in 2020, and that was the Kamui Miracle friend group. So for context, Kamui Miracle is the channel, yes, it still exists. However, I was a part of the community since 2019 when it first started, and since then I've met a lot of great people online because of it. We made our own little friend group. We still hang out to this day, sometimes play games, talk and all that. We've had our ups and downs and dramas, and we've also connected with other Beastars friend groups like the Project Sheridan Imaginary Badger group, and the truth is, this video was made because it's dedicated to them. This video was made to show you guys how much you mean to me. For 4 years I've been with you guys, and you guys were the friend group I've had throughout college. You guys have stuck with me and been with me since the very beginning, through jumping from one college to another, through doing other stuff, and I really have to say thank you so much. I don't know where I'd be without you guys, nor this channel, so every voice you've heard in this video is from, well, the Kamui Miracle group. In fact, Patrick, the guy who I collabed with, I've known since high school, so he gets like a little extra bonus points. But everyone else too has been so important in my life. I'm always grateful to have you guys with me, making videos, I guess, when I'm on like VC, getting to talk about stuff and hearing about your lives. It's always interesting to hear about people and all you guys, what you do, and I'm really grateful you guys are in my life. I don't know where I'd be without you, nor would this channel be. In fact, this whole video was made because I was like, I need to make a Beastars video, but how? And of course, I made one about Lougosi. Of course, Lougosi is an amazing ship too. But yeah, thank you, Kamui Miracle, Patrick, Imaginary Badger, and to quote Rem, in which I totally didn't make him say this just so he can fit in the video.
The Kamui Miracle was the badgers we imagined along the way. Badgers equals friends.
So yeah, thank you so much, and for those out there, make sure to follow everyone on this list, and remember to try to find a friend group that you'll love so much that maybe you'll try to eat them, like Lougosi.
My dear friends, my spirit lives on within you all. It is all due to your efforts in granting hope to everyone. Wherever you go, I will not be left behind. Thanks. Ibuki.